Hey babes, welcome back to Her Reign, Her Rules. You know how it goes in here. No filters, no fluff, and definitely no pretending. The road to purpose is cute. Today's talk hits a little deeper. Through our growing Kai Visions family here in the studio, I connected with Adam Vohra. He's the host and the voice behind the Finding Purpose podcast. And what I love is that this isn't some surface level, let's be inspiring conversation. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun today because it's the two of us kind of comparing our battle scars and realizing every detour, heartbreak, setback, and ego death had a reason. This one's about the chaos before the clarity. The nights you question everything, the mornings you wake up different, and that wild moment when you stop chasing what looks right and start aligning with what feels right. So pour a coffee or a glass of wine, loosen that grip on who you thought you had to be, and let's talk about what it really means to find yourself when life burns the map. Oh, and before we jump in, quick hit that pause button for me and go follow, subscribe, all of that fun stuff I ask you to do every episode. Send this episode to your favorite overthinker. You know you're out there. And come and find me on all the socials. Here's a hint for you. The gram is where I do all of the real, unfiltered commentary, behind-the-scenes glimpses, and the comical rants. All right. Now that you've done your duty as a member of the Chaos Club, let's get back to the show. Adam, welcome.
Thank you. That was a really fun introduction.
We said we were going to have fun today, so.
Yeah. You know, we came in a good mood after a good lunch-ish, I think. It's a little late, but
kind of late lunch.
I'll call it lunch.
Yeah.
And, I just loved your energy the second, I met
thanks.
you. And obviously we've been going back and forth on Instagram and really trying to get this down. And here we are. So I'm super grateful to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on. As I'm kind of growing the podcast and meeting everybody that's a part of this family, it's kind of fun to get to know everybody and what their podcast is about. I think we definitely have some similarities in what we're trying to put out there for our listeners, with just the finding your purpose, the positivity, the, pushing through and persevering. And I also found out as I was doing some reading yesterday that we have a similar background in hospitality, which is kind of cool. Mm. That's kind of a fun touch point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hospitality is really what the bulk of my career was, you know, from the age of 18 to what am I now? I'm 39. So, and it's been like a love-hate relationship with it because, I love the skill set that it provided me with.
Exactly.
The hours, can be grueling. Mm-hmm. The lifestyle in itself is demanding. Mm-hmm. And, for me, it was something that I had to step away from like a full-time level. I mean, I do still work at a restaurant near my house, but on a very part-time basis. Yeah. And it's because I need to kind of put that distance between it. I mean, it's also because they don't really have that many shifts available. And, I was brought on to fill in. But at the end of the day, I understand that, like, it was a chapter in my life that, like, gave me a lot of gifts, but also brought out a lot of ugly as well. Yeah,
it's understandable. I think you're right. Working in the hospitality, I feel like everybody should do it. You talk about like old school, like home ec classes and everything. Like I think people should have to work in retail and hospitality at some point. The skill set, the people skills, I've learned so much that I fall back on. I mean, I still do manage a bar, but even in my business and everything else in life, it's been, you learn a lot about people and about yourself. And you're right, though. It's definitely, it comes with challenges.
Yeah,
different lifestyle.
Yeah, I think what it really gave me was a tolerance for others that I otherwise probably wouldn't have been able to have, because you do see people in fine form, if I may say. Yeah. Like I've never seen so many rude behaviors that otherwise wouldn't be acceptable. Yeah. Like if I was sitting at dinner with my family and people demonstrate that type of behavior in public towards a complete stranger who really, so for me, like I've seen some of that, but I've also seen like really like great generosity. But for me, it really gave me the skill of just being able to multitask. Some cash handling skills, obviously. the ability to kind of solve problems and improvise
Right.
on
the fly.
On the fly.
Yes.
You know,
Very
conflict resolution, sales. You know, at the end of the day, it really helped me when it came to being able to speak to people.
Yep.
You know, people need to understand a tip essentially is a commission that you are really determining through the way you treat somebody else.
Yeah.
Which is unlike any other field, if you think about it, when it comes to sales, where, you know, most sales jobs have maybe like commission tiers and they're really like plotted out, whether it's real estate or whether you're selling cars, whatever. I mean, the restaurant industry, you really determine how much you make by
your attitude, how you treat the customers. Absolutely.
Yeah. One of the biggest things it taught me was don't wear your personal life to work.
Absolutely.
And some days I was better than others. But if you got in a fight with your partner, right, you bring that shit to work, your clients are going to be able to see that.
Absolutely. They read it.
The customer's going to be able to see that. And obviously, if you have like regulars, I'm not saying that with like, you know, regulars are regulars. But, you know, when you're in, you know, I've worked in corporate restaurants, I've worked in high-end restaurants, I've worked in whatever. When you wear your personal drama on your face at work, it never really works out for you financially.
Nope.
And I think that kind of it actually is really relative to like a lot of fields, frankly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now you kind of gave us a little bit of insight, but I wanted to kind of start with your.
Sorry.
No. That's great. It's actually kind of a nice segue.
Yeah.
You know, give us a little more background about you, your journey. You know, what finding purpose is all about for you, and it's going to kind of tie into. I want to talk about finding your purpose.
Yeah.
As a concept today, but in a little bit of a different way, in a little bit of a deeper way.
Love that. Yeah. I was born on a bluff in India. No, I'm just kidding. I was born, you know, I grew up in Upper Fairfield County, Danbury area. My dad's an Indian immigrant. My mother is Persian Jewish. So, you know, I had a wide array of different cultures in my family. I have one sister. She's, you know, my best friend who I really should actually reach out to more often. She lives in Pennsylvania. And growing up, we really had a very traditional upbringing. You know, my dad worked for IBM for 40 years. We were, you know, I would say middle class, maybe on the upper side. You know, really had everything that we were supposed to, you know, had everything that we ever wanted, frankly.
Of course.
Like a good, healthy upbringing. You know, for me, you know, me and my sister went to Jewish day school, well, from kindergarten through 5th grade. But, you know, one of the things that I always talk about when I tell my story, whether it's in this setting, in a recovery setting, wherever, I talk about like major turning points. So I really kind of hone towards that.
Yep.
You know, one major turning point, which is pretty well documented throughout, you know, my podcast and, you know, any, you know, public speaking venture is when I was 13, me and my sister found out we were adopted.
Okay.
And for me, that really like changed the trajectory of the way that I saw myself. And this is also coming from, you know, the first 13 years of my life always feeling different anyway. You know, I look different when it comes to like all the Ashkenazi Jews that we, you know, our family immersed ourselves when it came to synagogue and like the Jewish day school. I always felt different. I always thought I was different, and that reaffirmed that I was different. Compounded by that, you know, like for me, alcohol played like a really big role in my story. You know, I discovered alcohol a little bit after that. You know, that really, you know, being a progressive disease, alcoholism and addiction, really took a hold of me through my 20s, but that was also when I was working in restaurants and it was acceptable.
Right.
And the one thing for me is like I chose to ignore a lot of the damage that it caused because it didn't require me to feel. And when you have a lubricant of such that gives you that luxury of not really having to face your fears and face, you know, the ugliness and face life as it happens, it's comforting.
Absolutely.
But the more you silence it, I always relate it to a, you know, bottle of champagne. It's a cork, ironically, you know, it's a cork that's waiting to burst. And that's essentially what I was.
Yep.
Got into a bunch of trouble, you know, went to UMass Amherst there for a little bit. And, you know, at the end of the day, I was really just navigating life with no purpose. And now I can acknowledge that, having done the work over the past several years and really unpacking those things that I previously didn't want to face. Worked in the restaurant industry for, you know, almost 2 decades. So that was really like from my 20s to mid-30s, working in restaurants. Also, in that process, my drinking was getting progressively worse. Consequences were getting graver. More and more people were being affected by my behavior. And then, really just hit like a tremendous bottom back in 2022 where I had a culmination of things. And I always say, like, bad things happen in threes, and bad things happened in threes.
Really?
And I crashed my car, got a DUI, lost a job, and then also was diagnosed with chronic pancreatitis. One of the things that I always say is that, like, if that terrible, dark, lonely moment hadn't happened, then I don't know where I would be.
Yep. So
in hindsight, that was like a tremendous gift. While you're going through it, it didn't feel like it. But in that moment, I, made the decision to really lean into recovery. My sobriety date is August 4th, 2022. I knew what I had to do. I'd been in and out of rooms and I'd gone to rehab a couple times. I knew what I had to do. I had to face myself. I had to be honest with myself, and I had to do the work and put one foot ahead of another. And that journey has been great. That first year was really just reintroducing who I am to myself. And then after that, it was, hey, like, what do I want to do with this time that I have left? And one of the things that I always say is, that part of my life was really much a taker. And this next chapter of my life, I really want to commit to giving back and impacting people and not making it all about Adam, because it was already all about Adam for way too long.
Right.
And that's why I launched my business, and I launched the podcast, and I started to really share my story honestly and candidly, because when you do that, you have the power to touch people, and you have the power to hopefully change a life for the positive.
Yeah. I swear you had
That's my life in a nutshell.
I swear you had my cue cards ahead of time, because you literally, like, you've already hit on the points that. Did I? Kind of in this first little piece and concept that, you have to, there's an unraveling at some point. There's an unraveling that happens, right? And it's I don't know, you want to call it the mirror moment or that self-reflection where you're like, all right, I've hit rock bottom, or something has happened that's now a catalyst for some change. But that want to align is kind of disorienting, and it takes a long time to kind of come out of that. And people have this idea of alignment or finding your purpose, and it's all about like candles and peace, and it's really a lot deeper and darker than that in the beginning. And so my first question to you was going to be, talk about that unraveling a little bit, but you kind of just very naturally went there and as part of your story. So,
well, just to talk a little bit about the unraveling, and I was unraveling for decades. It's really about, when you really just want to come out and catch that spool. And, one of the things I say to people is that you really can determine how low you want to go.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that oftentimes in our heads, and I did it where it was like, I haven't done this yet, so I'm not that bad. I haven't been
the justification.
Here. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And when you do that, then you give yourself permission to continue the behavior that you were doing that are causing these negative results, and also probably causing you to feel pretty empty inside. Yeah. And you justify it because you're afraid to actually face it. So that unraveling process for me was abrupt, but I probably could have gotten a little lower if I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it was, for some reason, for me, and like, I am a spiritual person. I wouldn't say I'm a religious person. I mentioned that my mom was Jewish, my dad was Hindu. Every partner I've ever had has been Catholic, and I'm a very spiritual person. When I do acknowledge that the decision for that to be that final bottom wasn't made by me.
Okay.
Because if it was my decision, I had a whole body of evidence of how I make decisions. So it couldn't have been me.
Gotcha.
So it was God, whatever it was. And, I believe in God, finally, protecting me and making those decisions, particularly early on.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like an awakening moment, I'm sure. Yeah. So from that moment of kind of that awakening or that unraveling or realizing that there needed to be change, was it quick for you to start taking steps to change, or did you realize it, but then was it kind of a slow trickle into what was coming next?
So I'll tell you the story. You know, all of those three things happened to me. They were, you know, DUI, whatever, everything. And I called up my best friend. She had been sober for quite a while, and I told her I needed help. And she flew me down to South Carolina, and I lived in this kind of cabin behind her parents' house. And I wouldn't say it was lonely. And one of the things that I now realize is like real growth is can be very lonely. And
extremely.
It wasn't quick, but I had the roadmap because I had people who had done it before me.
Okay, which is great. That's amazing. You had people to support you and guide you a little.
And, you know, I think, you know, and now, like, as an entrepreneur, like, there are people who've done things before me, and I have to lean on them. So, you know, taking that in that early stage, it's like, this person has gotten, you know, whatever, 20 years of sobriety, right? Okay, so maybe they know a thing or two on how to fucking do this, right? Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Of course. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
thought you were a restaurant person. I was like,
curse away, my dear.
But it's like, the roadmap is there if you look for it and you can put your ego aside and ask for help. And that's what I had to do. But like those first days were really just about basic things, basic disciplines, right? Making your bed, you know, brushing your teeth, taking a shower, eating 3 square meals, putting some structure into my life. For years, I would say no to people because it messed with my routine. I never knew what a routine was.
Right.
I never had a routine.
It was more habits probably, right?
Well, my routine revolved around whatever was going to give me instant gratification.
Okay.
Whether it was partying, whether it was sex, whether it was gambling, whatever it was, those are what my routines really evolved around, as opposed to, hey, like now I actually do have a structure. And that's the thing that I had to incorporate the most. And that's where we talk so often, and so many people in the personal development space talk about those small wins. That's what it was about.
They're
stacking
building blocks.
Small wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can remember my mom saying growing up, like you have a bad day or a bad week, or you know your boyfriend breaks up with you or something, and you're just like so down. And especially when you're younger, you don't really know how to come back from that. And she'd always say, just pick a couple little things, make your bed in the morning, start stacking the little wins. You know, and it builds.
Yeah,
you know, big time.
And I think one big thing was just don't let your emotions run wild, and don't react to how you feel so impulsively. And that's where I had been.
One. Yep.
When you're always gonna if you react to every little feeling you have, then you're never really making decisions based on logic. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're doing it on how you feel. And you know, like there are so many times in the past it'd be like, oh, I don't feel like doing that. Well, get up and do it because it needs to get done.
Right, exactly. Like,
right?
Sometimes you have to just get things done.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely.
But like, I guess I was thinking about it earlier today. I don't really get too emotional when it comes to how I react to things, unless, you know, sometimes there are like major triggers that like,
of course,
when I do react, I can acknowledge that why was that, like, why did I react that way? What button was pushed there?
Yep.
And whatever button I figure it out, I need to uninstall that button because I
like that.
You know,
I like that, like reverse work to kind of figure out what that is and how do you adjust or eliminate it, or I like that.
Yeah.
Remove that.
So for me, like, you know, that first year really, and it was a slow growth year, was honestly identifying a lot of buttons.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Do you feel like when did you kind of discover this need to really find your purpose? Obviously, in the beginning, it was more about finding the structure and getting through the beginning stages of that change. But did you feel like you were performing then, or were you performing as you were trying to find this new you and this new version?
You know, that's a good question. When did you know, that first year I ended up like working at a gym. I worked at Equinox down in Greenwich, and I was meeting a bunch of people. And you know, one of the things when you're working with the sales team at Equinox, you talk to everybody who walks through the door. And you sit down, you get to know them, and you ask them what they do. You know, one question that I started to ask in every one of my conversations, sales conversations, would always be, what's important to you?
That's a good question.
What's important to you? Obviously, they talk about their family. They would talk about, usually they just talk about their family and the kids.
Yeah.
But, I'd go a little deeper than that and been like, if there's one thing that you wish that you were watering more in your life, what would it be? And for them, it was always about giving back. It was always about oftentimes charitable foundations. They wanted to do more to give back.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that very interesting because these were folks who were on top of their game.
Right.
Financially, they were fine. They had the status. They had everything. Mm-hmm. And that was something that always stuck with me. And so that's when I discovered different folks in nonprofit spaces, and I kind of dug into that a little bit and really launched my business as a nonprofit consultancy. And during that early phase, it was like, all right, like, am I really giving back? Like, I'm helping people out on the back end, and that was cool. But what really changed my life was during that whole process, I was also immersing into, I don't know if you met Brandon Godoris in Warm Heart Life.
Yeah.
And
yes.
and I went to his first public speaking school. And when I went to that and I shared my story really candidly, I talked about the alcoholism and addiction. I talked about the death of my mother. I talked about the suicide of a best friend. Things that I had never just let out to the public, I shared about. And these were also things I attributed some shame to.
Okay.
And when I let it out, the room was really touched by it.
Yeah, receptive.
And the feedback I got was positive. And I think for me, that's when it clicked, is that true vulnerability and is more powerful than anything. Yep. When you're vulnerable with your story and you're comfortable sharing it with the purpose that someone else can be inspired by it, that's when it clicked for me. Yeah. And that's, shortly thereafter, I launched my podcast, and for me, just like you, I want people to listen to these conversations and say, hey, like, that clicks for me. They don't need to like really relate to the whole thing. Like, I don't need, but if there's a piece of it that you could take and say, hey, like, I felt that way. These are the tools that Adam used to not feel that way. Right. Maybe they'll work for me. I'm reaching that's the audience that I want to reach.
Same, absolutely. And yeah, finding that camaraderie or finding some advice or something that maybe worked for somebody else. If something resonates with people, that's great. If they feel like there's somebody that's gone through it, that's great. But it's the whole big purpose of it is, we all have our things that are a catalyst for change. Yeah. Whatever our backstory is and our origin story. But to get to that point, and then hopefully that's where we pick up the ball and run with it, is giving people that next step in that, how to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, the question that you asked was, when did I find my purpose?
Or when, as you were going through that process, did you mourn the old you? Did you feel like you were performing then, or were you performing as you were trying to find your purpose? Like, where did that, well, you kind of talked about it, that click for you was
it's funny because
public.
One question I ask every one of my guests is, what advice would you give to anyone on that journey of finding purpose, right? And I've never been asked that question. I think that's the question that you just asked me was the closest thing to that. And the thing that I would say is, make sure you're purposeful and intentional in all of the small things that you do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And if you are intentional in the small things, your purpose will reveal itself.
Right.
And that's something that I think is really important, because I think a lot of people kind of seek purpose in a way where it's this big enlightenment, and all of a sudden it just shows up, and oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to do. It can.
Sure.
But I think more often than not, when you're doing something and it feels good and the energy's right and the people involved are the ones who you want and it feels good. And if you could continue to align yourself with the decisions that lead to those feelings, and you keep compounding that, purpose will reveal itself.
Right. And I actually call that like the pivot season. That's kind of that in between, between, okay, I'm awake now. I'm realizing that there needs to be this change, or I need to make some, do some healing. And then the actual moment of like, okay, I've arrived, this really is aligning. So there's that in between stage. And I always call it like the pivot season. So talk a little bit more about that in between as you were, what was like the first big step after you were sober and really feeling like you were on your feet? What was the next big step to start your podcast and business?
Well, the biggest step I made was sign on to work with the Carlos Rodon Foundation, National Rodon, and really that was just based on conversations that me and her had had, and that was definitely the biggest project that I've worked on.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told her, I was like, yeah, I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, and I don't think I've ever shared this in this comment ever. I said, yeah, I could do it. I had no idea whether I could do it or not in that moment.
That must have been a little scary.
Or
was
not
it
really.
Not? Okay.
It was more like, well, I better fucking do it.
Better figure it out.
Yeah. It wasn't scary as much as constantly telling myself, yeah, I could do it.
Yeah.
And I think that like was a big catalyst. But in that moment when I was like, let's do it, we should do this. Okay. Honestly, it was really a testament to that she believed in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes that's what you need, someone to believe in you so you can believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And, that pivotal year, I learned more about myself than I have probably ever learned in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I want to do, like that was like that whole project in itself. When I got to the end of that project, we're talking about the pivot. That's really when I made a major pivot in my business and was like, I don't want to work with nonprofits. Okay. Not because I don't want to give back, but because I want to curate more higher end experiences and activations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And not that it wasn't higher end, it also like came down to a budgetary thing where
Sure.
for me, when it comes to donating my time, I had to understand that like the value of my own time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big awakening.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I think, for me, especially early on in business, I said yes to a lot of things that may not have been adding value to either my portfolio or to me as a person. Mm-hmm. But I did it just because it was an honor to be a part of it.
Well, that and it helped you hone in on what exactly your path was going to be and your what you wanted to be involved in and not.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Helped shape that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because you asked like what the pivot phase is, and I would say, I'm maybe 2-3 years into this business, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, 2 years. It's 2025. Yeah. I'm 2 years into this business, and I would say I'm still working out exactly what works and what doesn't.
Sure, of course.
And it's funny because I also got to be like very wary of like outside noise. And I'm more wary about it now than I ever have been.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important. Do you feel like you struggled at all holding on to your old identity as you were going through this healing and growth process?
No, I embraced my old identity because who I once was allows me to be who I want to become. Mm-hmm. I can't just unforget it. I can't just forget all the things that happened.
Right, of course.
So I leaned into it, frankly, because for a long time, I was one of those people who was like, poor me, right? And it's really just kind of a sick situation, frankly, and really is a testament to just like how, the disease works, but how dark it can get where you could have that poor me mentality accompanied by the world's biggest ego.
Sure.
The two things they don't jibe, but whichever one's convenient to me in the moment, that's the one I use. So, kind of really what I had to do was kind of look at that old me and hug him and tell him everything's going to be okay and acknowledge all the pain and, really talk to that little boy.
Yeah.
And tell him that everything's going to be okay. It's okay to feel how you feel.
Yep.
It's okay to be scared, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it from here.
Yeah.
And that's leaning into that and facing it was probably the biggest gift, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such a huge thing. And you hear it more and more in self-reflection and healing and everything these days is that, talking to the younger version of yourself or owning where that comes from, where that trauma or the catalyst for changes come from. You don't want to just ignore it and forget about it. And I like that word, embrace it, because it is part of what's shaped you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a really important step, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I can tell you personally, you can tell everybody personally, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But,
what was your process like?
So this is something that I haven't fully, I'm about to start. So October is Domestic Abuse Awareness Month, along with many other things going on, Italian Heritage Month, breast cancer awareness. But so I'm about to start this little 4-part mini series about domestic violence. And so for me, I wasn't getting, beat up, though the line was very, very thin at one point. So for me, that was kind of my catalyst for looking at what I was accepting in my life. This was a previous marriage. And that was the catalyst for me. And that's kind of where I had that moment of, okay, what am I accepting into my life? What am I bringing into my life that's not working? Because I keep finding myself in these situations. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I'm going to dive into that story a little bit on my my next recording. But my process was very much taking a step back. I needed to be alone and spend some time alone to really hone in on what I was doing with my life, what I wanted, because I had given up so much of myself in that marriage to just do what he wanted and the life that he envisioned for us. So I had to have my come to Jesus moment, or my whatever you want to call it, mirror moment, and figure out what the next steps were to pull out of that. And it was time alone. It was therapy.
Yeah.
And trying to find something that I was really passionate about. I was working in hospitality, loved that for the social aspect and everything. But I'll agree with you. You get caught up in cycles and partying and drinking, and it's tough. And I think that's such a mask. And I was using it. I was self-medicating with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a very healthy relationship with alcohol now. I don't dabble in anything else.
Yeah.
So that's, luckily I didn't ever have that, that issue. But there were many other things that really kind of.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that you just said about, really having to take time alone. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because that was something that I had to do. And as much as I needed to take time alone, I also needed to get to a place where I was comfortable being alone with myself.
How freaking challenging is that? To me, it's still, awful.
It's particularly challenging when isolation is a tool that you use to hide. Mm-hmm. So when isolation is used as a tool for you to escape and hide, and which it very much was for me, and in my safe space was being alone, oftentimes with, an 8-ball of cocaine and a bottle of whatever. Mm-hmm. If that was my safe space, now it's also on the flip side, being alone can also be a safe haven. Mm-hmm. And that's where I am now, where I'm very comfortable being alone.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable being still in my thoughts. Mm-hmm. And it comes with practice. It
does, because I still sometimes have those moments where if I'm triggered in just the right way, that being alone, that isolation can actually cause me to spiral a little bit. Yeah. So you're right. It definitely takes a lot of practice to be okay with that and realize that that's not where like you said, like before, that isolation would be your escape. Now it's got to be your escape in a positive way versus to hide or whatever.
Well, from an escape to kind of like a safe space.
Right.
And It takes practice, frankly. And, you know, I think it's really rooted in the level of trust that you have with yourself. And when you see that relationship with yourself evolve and you slowly trust yourself because you now have put together some evidence that you actually can keep promises to yourself and that you actually can be productive and you don't have to lie and you don't have to hide and you don't have to pretend to be something you're not. And once you have that body of evidence, which, you know, it took me a few years to build, then being alone is okay.
Yeah.
It's not dangerous anymore.
No, and it can be comforting.
Yeah.
You said something really important when you talked about keeping promises to yourself. I think that's such a huge first step with any sort of healing or self-growth or changes. Keeping little promises in a new relationship, keeping promises with a friend, which helps establish your boundaries, your safety zone, whatever you want to call it. But that was a concept I had a really hard time with is, you know, because I'm a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would always do everything for everybody else and bend over backwards. And when I would start setting those boundaries and making promises to myself and keeping them, that's when I felt that shift, you know, really start to happen.
Yeah.
That's an important one.
Well, you know, I always look at growth as a ladder. And for me, I was at the very bottom of the ladder where self-trust is really the bottom rung. You know, once you are able to trust yourself, self-esteem might be a little bit there. Self-confidence is on that ladder.
Yeah.
But way at the top of that ladder is self-love. And that's really what we're climbing towards.
Yep.
That's what this whole fucking thing's about. Can we get to a place where we love ourselves? And when you do, I think that's when you're the happiest person. You could love somebody else. You know, that's great. But if you love somebody else and you don't love yourself, you can probably put yourself in a compromising relationship.
Right. And that's only going to go so far or work so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know, I think that you can heal in love. I'm an advocate for that. I don't think you have to be completely healed, love yourself completely, and be ready to go, and then you've got this perfect version that you can offer to somebody. I don't believe that that's necessarily the right way. But I think that you have to be a good portion of the way there and really know yourself and what works for you. Because then when you get into a relationship, you have to be able to hold those boundaries, keep those promises to yourself, you know, still continue to do the work you need for yourself while contributing to a relationship or a friendship or whatever it is.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you in that sense where self-love is really rooted in gestures. It's rooted in, yes, setting boundaries, protecting your peace. It's rooted in saying no when you don't want to do something. It's rooted in standing up for yourself and letting people know how you feel if you feel they cross the line. These are all things that allow you to love yourself a little more because you need people. People do things so often for other people because they're afraid of hurting them, but when you prioritize yourself because you're afraid of how it may hurt you, it's a game changer.
That's beyond pivotal.
Yeah.
When you can understand that.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And oftentimes, you know, like it puts us in places that we don't want to be. Like, oh, like I didn't even want to come to this event, or like I didn't really want to invite you into this conversation. Like one of the things for me that has been really important is just trusting my gut. Like if I get a bad vibe about someone, like I don't fuck with you.
Yeah, it's usually pretty accurate, huh?
Yeah. Like so often than not, you know, we talk about red flags all the time, but so often than not, we'll ignore red flags because we think we can change something. We think we have that type of power, right? There's a treasure chest on the other side of that red flag that we want now. Or
interesting. Yep.
We are putting somebody else's feelings before ourselves, right? So why not just, they're red for a reason. Right.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Yeah.
Like that's a gift from God that put that there for you.
Right.
Like listen to it.
Stop asking for signs if you don't want to accept them. Yes. I feel like that's such a big thing. Like, oh, I need a sign. Whether you pray, whoever you talk to and ask for these signs, when they're slapping you in the face and you're not accepting them, like, what do you tell people in that moment? Like, as a friend, if that was happening to one of your friends, what would you say to them?
You know, it's funny. Like, I have a friend, right? One of my best friends in the world. And he was dating this girl. Didn't really, you know, like, I knew, like, I had a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, all right, whatever. And ends up breaking his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sucks.
it sucks, but he's a friend where I was in a position that we had conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I told him, I was like, I don't like her. Like, I if you're happy, I'm, you know, but I see potential for her to really hurt you, bro.
Mm.
And maybe heed that. If you don't, fine. But he didn't, and he hurt her. And it's one of those situations where that emotional connection or that belief that he could change someone, like, he still keeps her in his life.
Mm.
And I said something to him that I later found out really upset him. I said, if she hurts you, bro, I don't like. It's kind of that I told you so moment.
Right.
Like, don't come crying to me.
Which we of course never want to do, but you know, it's yeah, that's kind of tough.
I said that to him though, and you know, it's funny because I didn't know how much that pissed him off that I said that to him.
Okay.
And it's funny because now in hindsight, like, I wish I didn't say that to him
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, like, I'm there here for you regardless, bro. Like, you want to do your thing, you want to give it another crack. Like, I'm not gonna not be your boy. I'm not gonna, like, be supportive of you should she burn you again. But, you know, another part of me is also like, why aren't you trusting me this time?
Mm-hmm.
Or why aren't you considering the voices of other people? You know, but that's just like the human experience. That's his shit.
Right.
You know, like, that's his shit, you know? And, you know, one of the things for me is really like looking at what's on my plate and not looking on other people's.
Yeah.
And that helps me to really just like be able to, but running full circle here, acknowledge red flags, note them, ignore them, and not ignore them, acknowledge them, and pivot.
Right.
You know?
Right. Pivot into, you know, that next phase that helps protect you even further. And, you know, we talked about the in-between, the pivot, and then, you know, the mirror moment, which I kind of mentioned earlier, where I think that's kind of that final realization and that last step to really owning that self-reflection moment. It's like we've all had that one night or that one day where we're like, you know, I joke about like sitting in front of the mirror, mascara streaming down my face and being like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you hiding in the bathroom with your dog again? Why are you like doing all of these things to protect yourself? Get the fuck out of it and make a change. And for me, that self-reflection of you call it the light bulb moment, something clicked, whatever. And I've coined it the mirror moment in my life where I just was like, okay, now this is a starting point. All of this little bit of growth and something's got to change. But that mirror moment's when you really start to hone in and kind of find your purpose. So speak to that a little bit. When you finally made that full commitment, full switch to, and feeling that you've maybe started, you know, finding your real purpose and what that felt like.
Yeah. So, like, I've had mirror moments before that I ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And when I ignored those moments, it brought me to really dark places.
Mm-hmm.
So that final mirror moment was really just acknowledging that everything I'm doing isn't working and I need to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I asked myself, what do I want my life to look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you picture for yourself, right?
What do I want my life to look like? And then I had this image. And then I wrote things down.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want? And I made a list. And then after you make the list, and I've really resorted to writing things down, it's real. Once it's out of my head and on a piece of paper, it's real.
Yep.
And then what do I need to do to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was a complete lifestyle switch.
Of course.
And I think when you play tit for tat, like, I can do this, this, and this, which is required to get to where I want to be, but I'm not going to do this, this, and this. There's no deal making.
Right.
If you want a certain quality of life or if you want a lifestyle, you either commit to all the things or that's not really the quality. That's not really what you want.
Right. Yeah. You can't negotiate for,
or you're in store for some disappointment because you weren't willing to do all the necessary steps and you're playing pick or choose like you have been your entire fucking life.
Right. Yep.
So that you can stay in your comfort zone and not ever live this life beyond your wildest dreams.
I mean, you said it. That's a comfort zone. And I think that that's definitely a moment where you have to ask yourself, are you really ready? Yeah. Do you really know what you want? Because if you're willing to negotiate and half-ass it, that's not going to get you there. It's not going to get you anywhere close because you're going to fall back.
And it's not going to get you there tomorrow.
Right.
That's the big part.
Yeah. Well, people don't like that it takes long.
Well, nothing good really takes long.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Right? Like, seriously, though.
No.
Like, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's probably not going to happen the next day. It might not even be next year.
Right.
And, that's something that, I feel bad for kids nowadays.
I know. We're in that age of instant gratification where it's the hard work is, I don't understand it, but it's challenging for some.
Well, that and they get on their phone and they see people living this life and people are like, oh, make blah, blah, blah in 3 weeks.
Right.
It's like they might be because you're dumb enough to click buy, but you probably won't.
Right.
Because you're not going to follow them completely. You're not going to stay disciplined. You're not going. So don't go back and complain. But, at the end of the day, like, I feel bad for kids now.
Yeah.
Because, when we were growing up, like I watched my dad go to work every single day, build a life, buy a house, put me and my sister through school. Yep. Like these whole things. I saw the grind and it was like the old school grind.
Same, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And now kids...
The work ethic and yeah.
Like the marketing of how things are so easy now, so easy to do. It's such false advertising. Right?
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. So I hope that we, as we're putting all of this good stuff out there, right, that helps guide people and get them through that, like over that hurdle of the hard work. Because I think that's the hardest part for people. And I think that happens. I mean, yes, you talk about the kids and I feel bad for the younger generations, but I think we all still struggle with that sometimes. And it's, maybe not how we grew up, but it's hard work is hard work. And it's tough to push yourself through that sometimes, especially when you're tired, if you are struggling with substances, if you are struggling with a relationship, if you are struggling with something that's taking energy out of you, it's hard to push through. But I think you're right. You have to make that commitment, that full commitment to the change. And then it's the only way.
You can't play let's make a deal with your future.
I like that though. That's a good, I like that analogy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. You can't. I just have like a funny like meme going on in my head now, like let's make a deal, and it's like your life on the line.
Yeah.
It's my ADHD brain goes to weird places
I love
sometimes.
That. No, mine too.
So the mirror moment, you're ready, make that full commitment. And I feel like talk about that moment of the click when you really knew, like to you, what does it mean to find your purpose? What does that give you in your life? And talk about that moment.
I think when that's a good question.
Like when you're really truly aligned.
I should know that. I'm the purpose guy, right? Shit. I think that answer is different for everybody. For me, I would say was when I started living for myself. And that click moment was, I've had a bunch. I've had a bunch. Just, God shots when I was able to just be in the moment and feel and see that the work that I'm doing is paying off. Anytime someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I listened to your podcast, this part really impacted me, that's a click.
Absolutely.
Anytime,
reinforcement.
Yeah. Any event that I do where someone's saying goodbye and is excited to learn about the next event and how they can be involved. That's a click.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime my dad calls me for advice,
Mm-hmm.
which he would have never done.
Right. Oh, that's an awesome moment.
Click moment.
Yeah.
And I think that there isn't just one click moment. There's a series of click moments.
Sure. Yep.
And I think that there was click moments in the past that I chose to ignore and acknowledge. And when you look for these things and you see these little gifts and these, I call them God shots.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that term a lot, actually.
When you look for these God shots, they will find you, and they're all click moments.
Right. And be open to them.
Like meeting Claudio.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was.
We love Claudio.
No, seriously though.
100%.
Like he's become someone who I confide in. I run by things I know I can rely on.
Mm-hmm.
A quality friendship like that. I don't know what that really was prior to, 3 years ago. I had very transactional friendships.
Yep, absolutely.
So like that in itself is a gift. It's a God shot. And when I, like I can never really pinpoint it to just one click moment.
Sure.
Frankly.
Well, I think that's
all
great.
Reinforce each other.
Right. Because then you're open. So yeah, you had your pivotal moment where you knew you had to make a switch, but all of these moments that are supporting your path and your purpose, it's kind of like each one of them it helps you honor who you're becoming.
Yeah.
And really understand that you're in the right, on the right path, which is huge. You need that. You need that reinforcement. It can't be one moment and then you're just, for the rest of your life on your own free will, you're just moving towards that. You do need that reassurance.
Yeah.
That you're on the right.
Well, it's just like those moments where it's just like, yeah, I am on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you need that. And
it feels so good.
It feels so good. And if you open your eyes to them, you'll see a lot more of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna shift. It's kind of a lot of heavy topics, important but heavy topics.
Oh, we're going funny?
Well, so I have this game that I play.
Okay.
Called Soft or Savage, where I throw out some hypotheticals, usually around the theme of the episode. And I want you to just let me know, are you going to go soft or savage on that situation, that person, that whatever? You're welcome.
Soft or savage.
You're welcome to give a little more insight into your choice, or you can just let it be and leave it up for interpretation. Nothing too crazy, but someone says they're doing the work but avoids accountability every time. How are you going to talk to that person? You going soft or savage on them?
Middle.
Okay. All right.
Middle.
I like that middle. All right. So we kind of already talked about this one, I think. So I think I know your answer. But a friend keeps repeating the same cycle and calling it self-discovery, which to me I kind of take as an insult after all the hard work I've done. But soft or savage?
Apparently, I go savage.
Someone apologizes, and this is probably something you're experiencing as your business is growing, and people are probably glomming on to things.
Yeah.
Right. Someone apologizes for hurting you, but you can tell they just want to be back in your energy and in your circle. Soft or savage?
Probably soft, but cautious.
Okay. I kind of feel the same way. Like maybe there's something I can do to help this person. There's a reason they're seeking. Now, if it becomes very shallow and surface level, that's different than you.
Yeah, in that situation, you acknowledge it's them and not you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So whether this is friendship, relationship, whatever, you finally are at this place. We talked about our boundaries before, and you express what you need, and you get called selfish. How are you reacting to that one?
In the past, it would have probably been savage, but now it would be soft.
Okay.
Because I would look at myself and be like, am I being selfish?
Good moment of reflection.
I'd get introspective if someone called me selfish.
Okay, somebody calls you intimidating. This is one that I've actually had happen to me lately because, again, as I'm going through this growth process and everything, I speak more clearly. I'm very good at telling people what I need and honoring that. So someone calls you intimidating when you're just speaking in full sentences and making eye contact and being concise. Soft or savage?
Confused. I'm like that too.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to people.
Yeah.
I look in my contact.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I know.
Yeah.
So I'd be a little confused.
I like that. I'll accept that answer.
I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. This is just all for fun. I'm just curious, people's
Like
reactions.
hella confused.
I know, right?
I say hella like I'm from California. It's like I'm not.
Really?
Sometimes I don't know why I do it. It comes out.
My A's, people think I'm from Massachusetts. Like, I don't say mom. I say ma'am.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I lived in
You're from Vermont. That's close enough.
I guess.
Anything north of Massachusetts is a masshole. No offense. Sorry, I went to UMass Amherst. Everybody like north of Connecticut. Y'all.
We're all massholes, even if we're not from Mass, huh?
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
No,
Went to
it's
UMass
fine.
Amherst. There's all
I'm ready to start
massholes.
fighting.
I'm saying these northern New Englanders, y'all, yeah.
Yeah. There's something about that New England.
Vermont is
Yankee.
actually different. New Hampshire, they just like, I get it. It's in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Live free or die.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're near Boston, you're from Boston. Like, you guys are weird.
Have you ever seen those maps? It's not like totally geographically outlined like the state, but it's like the groups of people and the accents and the way of life. And it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, I love those maps because they're pretty accurate. And
Yeah. Oh, they are.
I love Maine.
Same.
I love Maine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know that many people from Vermont, to be honest.
What?
You're probably the only person I know from Vermont.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You guys don't leave Vermont. It's a beautiful place.
A lot of people don't leave
They
Vermont.
chill there. They're usually loaded. There's a lot of money up there.
Northern Vermont, there is. Yeah.
You know, they probably carried. Is there as many guns up in Vermont as there is in New Hampshire? Because I know there's a ton in New Hampshire.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so you got your guns. You got your nice homes.
Mm-hmm.
You got your green mountains, Vermont.
Beautiful scenery.
Right?
I'm blessed to have grown up where I grew up. I do not take that for granted.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for me. Especially where I grew up, it was a very small town. So I like the city a little better.
Really?
For sure.
Mm.
I like going back there.
She's just a small town girl.
Small town girl, big city dreams.
Lonely world. Nice.
All right, a couple more. Someone calls you too much, but they met you in your mid-character arc.
Calls me like on the phone?
No, just calls you to your face. Calls you too much, but you know that you're mid-character arc, and they're saying you're too much. So
calls you too much.
Yeah, calls you too much. Like, calls you too much.
Probably like a savage laugh. I would just laugh at that. Like, yeah, I am too much.
I always say, if I'm too much, go find less.
Oh, fair. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody said that.
That's a good one.
I think my friend Justine said that in the first episode, and I've kind of adopted it. Like, okay go find less.
Hey,
Fine.
listen.
All right. Friend keeps reposting healing era quotes, my favorite. But they still date walking red flags. I feel like we kind of touched on that earlier. A little bit.
Dude, that's my boy. Sorry, Ben.
Ben, we love you. It's okay.
I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna call him when I leave here.
Or we can edit that out.
He knows I love him, but he does that shit.
We all have friends that do that, and it's it's just about guiding them along to something different.
I dropped his name. I'll be like, yo, listen to this episode, bro.
All right. Any hypotheticals you want to throw out? Anything that sparked for you? And it's okay. You can say no.
No.
I kind of just put you on the spot.
I can't think of anything right now.
No, that's fine. I feel like we touched on a lot of really good topics. And I know as we walked in here, we're like, oh, we were both in like this happy, jolly mood. Like, we're going to have some great banter. It got a little deep. But, I like just letting it kind of go where it naturally goes.
Yeah, me too.
You talked about writing things down and how that was very important. So one of the things I do with every episode is throw out some journal prompts for my listeners. Little homework, fun homework. Maybe not fun in this situation, but so I'm going to throw out my 2. And if you have anything you want to add.
Ooh, I can throw one now too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Would love that. Where in my life, so again, to all of you, grab your journals. I'm asking you this to do some self-reflecting. Where in my life am I still pretending I don't know the truth? Because admitting it would require me to change everything. So think about that, write about it. And if I stopped betraying myself in that one place, what version of me would finally be able to get to breathe? What do you got?
Well, those were good.
Thanks.
I was going to say if there's one thing that you are carrying right now that if you let go, your life would be 50% better, what is it? The other one I would ask is, if you aren't living for yourself, find out exactly who or what you're living for and whether it's worth it.
Ooh, I like that one. I like that a lot. That's a good one. All right. Well, tell all of the listeners where they can find you, what you're up to, what you got coming up. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, first off, I want to thank you. I really appreciate you having me on this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm really excited to see where it goes. Judging from our conversation, just like your energy, it's going to be amazing.
Oh,
and
thank
any
you.
support that I can provide, I'd be like super, willing to help you however I can. And
I
just,
appreciate that.
I look forward to seeing this episode come out. I'm really grateful to your audience as well. My name is Adam Vohra. You can reach me at AdamVohra_ on Instagram. You can also go to my website, www.adamvohra.com, ADAMVOHRA. You will find information about my event management company. You'll find information about my new coaching program that I launched called the Course Shift Method. And then you will also find the homepage for my podcast, the Finding Purpose podcast, which is available on YouTube and everywhere that you consume podcasts. And I'm super grateful to be here. Super grateful for Claudio for hosting us.
Woo-hoo,
God
Claudio.
bless. And thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you doing this. I was so curious where the conversation would go. I have all my notes, and then I'm just always so amazed where it actually goes pretty naturally. And, so guys, we gave you the mirror and the map, so do what you will with it. And until next time, thanks for joining us.